Morning, everybody. How you doing there, Mark?
Hey, I'm doing good. How about you, man?
Wonderful. Hello, Gary. Hello, Gene Hudson. Nice to see you there. Hello, Catherine Gay. Hello there. Let's see who else is in there. Amy, welcome back there on a cold Thursday evening. How's the weather where you're at, Mark?
It's actually pretty decent outside. It was about 47.
47.
Yeah,
Hello there, Richard. Well, you got nice weather. So,
yeah. The rain melted all the snow, so it wasn't too bad.
interesting. Brown Barber. So, welcome, everybody. Round of applause. So, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, Black Eye Children. And I would have to see Mark's backdrop. That just freaked me out when he got in the green room. I knew he was going to do that to me.
Gotta have something creepy up there, you know.
Yeah, give me nightmares, man. I got my crucifix. I got my holy water ready. I'm ready. So
I kind of think you need that with with these freaky little kids, and for like the people who really aren't sure what the black-eyed kids are, you can kind of. I'm gonna paint like a scenario. So it's late at night. You're at home alone. You've got settled in for the evening. You got the glow of the TV on, nothing in particular you're watching. The TV's pretty much watching you. And you suddenly hear like a barely audible knock on your door. And you kind of begrudgingly get up. You're like, oh, who's at the door now? That type of thing. And you sort of roll over. And it's late. It's late at night. You're the only one home. And you walk over to the door and you peek through the side curtain. You look outside on your porch or your front stoop and you see what looks like a couple of small children. Kind of innocent. Maybe there's a problem. Maybe they're in trouble. They can't be more than maybe 10 or 12 years old. So you walk to the door, and just as you're about to unlock the door, you get this weird, overwhelming sense of dread and fear. And you can't really place where this is coming from, but it's there. It's something that's deep within your soul. It's almost something that's innate. It's in your DNA. And you crack open the door, and you ask them if you say, can I help you? And basically they ask to come inside. Sometimes they'll tell you that, they're hungry. They'll say they have a weird way of speaking, this monotone, odd cadence to their speech. And they're sort of like, say things like, it might say things like, it's food time. Can we come in and eat? Or can we come in and wait for our parents? And overwhelmed with fear, you kind of hesitate. You don't want to let them in. And when one of them looks up at you, you happen to notice that their eyes are completely black. And I'm not talking about just the pupil. I'm talking about the entire eye, the sclera, everything's black. You freak out, you slam the door shut, something's not right. You go back to the side window to peek at the kids again, and when you look, they're gone. There's no way they could have gotten out of your driveway that fast. They're just gone, almost as if they had vanished into thin air. And you can tell yourself that you just survived an encounter with the black-eyed kids. So,
yeah. Well, here's the deal, right? So we all heard this. Is it urban legend, myth? I don't know.
It's funny. The original accounts came up where with Brian Bethel in like 1996, and he was correct. One of the first. Yeah, he was one of the first ones to have an account an encounter with the black-eyed kids. He's sitting in a parking lot. He's writing out a check to pay an internet bill. Here's a knock at the window. He doesn't really look up at first. Cracks the window. Thinks maybe it's maybe somebody coming to ask for some spare change. And when he looks up, there's a couple of kids there saying that can they? I guess they were asking if they could get in his car if he'd let them in because they wanted to wait for their parents. They were going to the movies or something. And he's very same thing, overwhelmed with fear. He didn't want to let them in. And when the kids look up, he happened to notice that they had black eyes. And obviously it freaked him out and he got the heck out of there. But when he did look back at some point, they were gone, as if they vanished. They weren't anywhere in the parking lot. So, urban legend, I would say in this particular case, there have been a lot of stories that came out of this urban legend. So I doubt it's urban legend. I think these are very credible stories.
Monsters and Mysteries in America did me in. That was back in 2012, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because when that TV series came out, and people were reenacting, telling their story. People across America and the UK were like, good God, that's happened to us. Yeah. And that's when the internet was becoming real popular. and people were able to share their stories and communicate. And this is where everybody was like, what the hell's going on? Because this is really happening. This phenomenon is really taking place. Now, in the biblical reference, as to listen and ring, right? For the Bible Belt people like myself, people say that is the devil. That's demonic trying to get into your house, your domain, right? Because they have to
Hmm.
have permission, just like vampires and whatnot, to get into your dwelling. But, ladies and gentlemen, we actually had a case in Trimble County, Kentucky, of the black-eyed children 6, 7 years ago, and it is a credible, incident, and how I know this is my mother called me, and it was one of her friends, and the story goes like this. She was 72 years old, and she lives out in the country, and she got home late, and she works in a soup kitchen. I ain't gonna say where, but it's for the unfortunate kids in Kentucky. It's a school. When she got home, she went inside, and when she shut the door knocked. Now, remember, ladies and gentlemen, she just got home. So who's at the front door? She just went in. When she opened the door, in the country, we have another door, right? It's not like most people in the city. You open the door, you're there, right? So she had another door. She said there were two kids there. They wouldn't show their face, and they weren't making any sense. And they wanted to come inside, and she thought something was wrong. And when she turned the porch light on, they looked down. Now, she didn't understand what was going on, and she felt scared, like something wasn't right. So she shut the door and called for her husband. Husband, like, they're just kids. What are they going to do? She opened the door up. They were gone. Explain that.
So yeah, the whole disappearing immediately afterwards always got me, because you start wondering at that point: are we talking about demonic entities? Are we talking about something that's an interdimensional? Are we talking about an EBE? What exactly are these entities? And you're right. A lot of people seem to feel that these are demonic in nature, just because of the fact that that people have this overwhelming sense of dread and fear, and it's inexplicable too. Normally, to be fearful of something, there's something of you would see something, or you would be thrown into a scenario where you have a reason to be scared. You're staring down a shady character that might have a gun, or there's a wild animal in your area, and you see it kind of look up at you where it notices you. But these are seemingly innocent kids. So what is there to be scared of? But why do people have this overwhelming sense of dread and fear?
Well, that is correct, because we know the demonic, right?
Mm-hmm.
They use things for humans to understand that are safe. And we know kids can do no harm. Like she thought in the beginning, my mom's friend, they're kids. What are they going to do? They're not going to
Yeah.
harm. Ladies and gentlemen, kids have been known to murder parents and have killed.
Yeah.
So do not
Patricide and
take that lightly. I'm
patricide.
not saying that out of discord or anything like that, but you don't understand human nature.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's what demonic does. I don't know what these things are. I'm not saying it's a spawn of Satan, or if it is, I don't know. I never encountered it. I don't want to. But if you go and Google that, you'll be surprised of the number of reports and encounters that are out there documented from Vermont, Texas,
Mm-hmm.
UK. I'm all across the country. Now, when we talk about phenomenon, whether it's UFO, aliens, or Bigfoot, when you have stories and you have, all these accounts, there's got to be something you can sink your teeth into. But, somebody said the other night, well, I think it's just a bunch of hoaxes. How is that possible? Now, I can understand if you had a handful, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I always think it's funny too. The old kids playing pranks, that type of thing. But if you really want to freak people out, there's also a school of thought out there that believes that when you discuss the topic, just like the same thing with skinwalkers, if you discuss the topic, then you could possibly have an encounter of your own, because you're opening yourself up to the possibility or the idea. And some people actually have gone back and said, oh, well, I was talking about it, and then it actually happened. So that kind of, for some people, that's kind of freaky too. I'm a person that likes to believe that my faith is stronger than anything out there, so I don't really worry about stuff like that. But it's a very creepy. The topic, the encounters are very scary.
Well, I've read some documentation in the past when people have claimed uh, that they have countered such beings at the end of their driveway, that they had a gate they could not cross and wanted them to open the gate. And you hear this, and you actually see this in movies portrayed. They will be wearing hoodies,
Hmm.
and it's always the black or gray hoodies, no neon. It's always dark clothing. And I had a couple of them that was documented, I think, in 2004 and 2013, where they did a prayer and they just evaporated. So what does that say?
That usually indicates demonic.
That is correct.
Because if it was an EVE or an interdimensional, then what concept of Christianity or any religion would it possibly have, or why would it be affected if it wasn't something that was on the side of darkness? So you have to go back and factor that into.
Medium Melinda Williams, Psychic Files. I have encountered black-eyed children. That's interesting. I knew somebody would pop in and say that.
Yeah, it'd be kind of interesting to know what her encounter was too.
Yeah, absolutely, that would be. Because it's always to see firsthand knowledge of somebody that's actually had it instead of reading or doing research on it.
Now,
So, Catherine, go ahead.
oh no, go ahead.
He says, Catherine, how nice grizzly reassures there's no danger. I'll be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen. Anytime that I fear a lot, I'll pray. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
That's just the way I do. So,
Yep, I agree with you on that one. It's funny because you mentioned that. I remember hearing encounters where people had alien abduction experiences, and they prayed, and the whole thing just sort of came to an end. So yeah, there's been, and it's funny because even if you're not an overly religious person, if you look at different stories that, like, whether it might be the Book of Urantia or some of these other things where they talk about how the entire cosmos has a hierarchy to it. So let's say you were not an overly religious person and you believed in a hierarchy in the cosmos. Yeah, it's almost like you're going to the boss and saying that something's bothering me, and it ends right there, because everyone seems to be, or everything seems to be, in total awe and respect of the top level of this hierarchy. So you can, I believe that does help very much so when you pray these things away.
Ashley Banta, I have a question. If you answer the door mark, then
Mhm.
immediately invite them in, or do you have to actually invite them in?
No, you have to invite them in. As a matter of fact, there's been a couple of encounters where they actually said where they were insistent that that the person let them in, and said that they have to be invited in. There were cases where where people just closed the door and they went around the house knocking on windows and doors, and it was really a terrifying experience for some of these witnesses. Um, and there were a couple of cases where you heard about people that actually let them in,
That is
and
correct.
those did not turn out well. Usually, it seemed unnerving. Like, I think I'm going to get the name of this couple, the one couple that had their testimony, but they said that that the woman let them in, and said they could wait for the parents, even though they were unnerved and they were frightened by the whole encounter. And the kids sat there on the couch and didn't say a word. At some point, a car did pull up, and it was almost like a typical Men in Black encounter, with the weird looking sedan, and these, they went out and they left, and they said sort of bye in this monotone. They got in the car, and then it was just gone, and the whole thing was over. But usually, in those cases where people did let them in, the people suffered very serious health side effects later. So it might have been types of cancer or things like that, things that didn't
Heart
really
attacks.
things that didn't really make any sense. So it's almost like being in the sheer presence of these beings had a serious detriment to to the people's health who encountered these things. So yeah, it was pretty bad. So definitely don't let them in.
There was a case where you're looking at. There was a case I remember in 2012 in Colorado. I don't know if it's still out there on Google. where a couple opened the door. It was an elderly couple, and the husband was in the kitchen, and the kids were at the door, and the lady opened the door, and you know how you open the door and just let it close?
Yeah.
And the lady's like, "What are you doing?" And just like you said, the kids, both of them said, "You have to tell us to come in." And that's what she
Yeah.
kept saying in the newspaper article that she was repeating and the reporter was stating. And she didn't understand what she was like, that was weird. And the husband was like, "Who the hell are you talking to?" And she's like, "There's kids on the front porch." And I think she was in her early 60s. Don't quote me because I don't have the article in front of me. And the husband came into the living room to see what she was talking to or who with. And he's like, "There's nobody there." She's like, "There." And they were just gone. Now that's freaky. I'm sorry, that is freaky.
Yeah, you disappear into thin air. I mean, how do you write that off? I mean, it's funny when skeptics talk about this stuff, when these stories are brought up, and it seems to be like, hey, there people are they're just either lying or they're telling. Why would a 60-year-old woman be lying about this? Why would people be coming for? Because usually what happens is when you have these stories, usually you're written off as like some type of kook, or maybe you have some type of mental defect or something like that. So there's really not a good reason to lie about something like this.
No,
Especially
I
if it's
don't
an
think
encounter
so.
that's terrifying. Yeah.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, Ken, I think they're negative energies. That's what we're talking about, Mark and I. What I think what the gateway was for the Pandora box to open up with this reality of this phenomenon was that TV series of Mysteries in America, or whatever that TV show was. Because when that broadcasted those episodes, people's stories that got around, and people start coming forward across the continent and other countries saying this happened here, but years ago. Because if you trace the origins down, people said it started in the 80s. Then it's documented back in the 90s, early 2000s on the internet, but it didn't come popular until the late 2000s, like 2012, 2013, when that TV series come out, when people start talking about it openly, just like the phenomenon with ghosts and ghost hunters and that reality and realm. So,
and Denise asked if they were alive or deceased. I don't think they're either. I just think it's sort of like when you have these negative entities, period, even in ghost investigations, you have these things that existed that were never human to begin with.
Yeah, I don't think alive. No.
Yeah, they weren't alive. They're not deceased. They just exist. And you start wondering too if some of these encounters are increasing because more people are aware of them.
Yes.
Or is it the opposite? Is it the fact that that these encounters have been around, but because of the internet, we're just hearing more stories about them that normally would not be, that would go untold?
Now, Ashley Banna, I have another question. If they knock one time, would they come back another day, or do they come back or move on to the neighbors? I never heard them staying in the same area.
Yeah, I've never heard of a repeat encounter. Usually it's been a one-off, and it's not been an issue where the neighbors said, "Oh yeah, they came to my house too." Usually once they vanish, that's just it. They're gone. But you're rattled after it. It's definitely a life-changing event.
And Joe's asking us, so has anybody let them in, and what type of beings they're supposed to be? We don't know what they are. That's what we're saying. We don't think they're of this reality. Now, there has been some medical consequences that has been allegedly documented with encounters of them becoming inside the dwelling or the residence. So now, can we say it's 100% them? No, we can't, but I mean, 1 + 1 is 2. I mean, we try to put 2 and 2 together, but who knows?
And then you have somebody who's normally in fairly good health, and then all of a sudden, after this encounter, they have some serious medical fallout because of it. Well, I won't say because of it. It would be a serious coincidence that they have these medical episodes, that correlate with these with letting them in.
Karen Clayton, for our audio listeners in the morning, hey, could they be caught in purgatory being abused. That way, hence why black eyes, people can hear them to move on. What's your take, Mark?
Hmm. That's an interesting thought. I tend to think that they're not caught in purgatory. I tend to think that these are just malevolent entities all together. And just the fact that, like I said, people have they have this overwhelming sense of dread and fear, as they call it. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. They said that when they have this overwhelming sense of dread and fear, it doesn't make sense because they're a couple of seemingly innocent kids. So this means it's something deep within your soul, something within your DNA that says it's not right. And sometimes you need to listen to that inner voice.
Now, Melinda says, my experience, they did come back to me, but I was in a different house. That
Hmm.
tells me that they were after her.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just thinking. It's not they looked for her specifically. It sounds like.
That is wild. Are they black eyed children, all girls? No, they're boys and girls. That's a good
Yeah,
question because every incident that I have seen, it's always a boy and a girl. It's not ever two girls, two boys. It's
yeah,
always one of each, right?
yeah,
I
yeah.
never thought
It's
about that until he asked that.
yeah. And you have to ask yourself, is it something that's using the guise of a child just because they're hoping that people will find innocence in it and let them in?
Once again, demonic,
Yeah,
negative.
like different youth ages. Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. You rarely see the same age. Usually people say that one was a little bit older than the other.
would you like to have a guest come on about 5 minutes? She wants to know the one that had the experience.
Oh, that would be interesting.
Yeah, I'll send you the link, Melinda. That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
So drive
definitely.
safely. I'll send you the link and be happy to have you on. That'd be awesome. I have firsthand experience instead of documented cases across the internet and everything. So
Yeah.
Justin Decker said he's have heard up to 5. Wow.
Wow.
So I've
That's
never
pretty.
seen that. That would definitely freak me out. Mark, did you experience this? I may have to miss the story if so. Have
No,
you
I
had
didn't.
experience? I haven't, thank goodness.
I didn't experience it personally myself. But I you got the books out there. You have stories out there by folks like David Weatherly and some of these other folks that have repeated the encounters and they've done the research on it too. But myself personally, no. And not to, and like I said, I kind of think that I come from a different ilk. I mean, I would. It takes a lot to rattle me. Let's put it that way.
Are black eyed kids like the girl in the ring people talk about? I never watched the ring. I am too chicken. What are you trying to do?
Uh,
Give me night? Look at Mark's pictures behind him. You think I'm one thing I got my crucifix and holy water. I'm getting
yeah,
ready to anoint myself.
there you go, right there. That's pretty
Google
much what
that.
people see.
Google
Yeah, they
that.
got they had that pale appearance. They've 4 kids. Wow.
Now our 4 kids mixed gender, sometimes same sex.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean there are some good stories out there. Uh,
yeah,
why are they just kids? And this goes back to Denise to where human nature, right? Parenting. Kids are innocent, right? Less
hmm,
threatening. You let your guard down. You see a child out in the woods. What do? You go run to it. Where's the parents? Are you okay?
yeah,
You don't think twice. Your parenting comes involved. So, and I think that's where negative and you want to call it demonic from biblical references comes in play. That's just my opinion.
yeah. And
But
I have to agree with you on that one. They seem innocent. They would invoke a sense of, where you go into protector mode. I need to go and see if they're okay.
so, Joe, what do they ask for once inside? From my experience, they go quiet.
Yeah, yeah. Whenever you hear stories about people that actually did let them in, that's exactly what they do. Like with the elderly couple, they just sat there on the couch and they waited quietly and silently, I guess, for their what they said was their parents. And then that weird car pulled up and they left. Almost
Yeah.
it was, yeah. And
So
you can't find them. They just disappear.
it's the place they go to hold significant memories for them. Any history of that? I don't understand that. If you can elaborate, Mark, you understand what that means?
Yeah, these encounters seem random. So I'm not sure if they I'm not sure if they're going to a specific location, like for example, if they're like a spirit that might go back to like a place they grew up, is what it sounds like. But it doesn't seem that way. It seems like these are just malevolent entities.
Ashley, Grizzly, why pick certain houses, or is it people? So here's what I say when we talk about demonology and spiritual, right? Evil, we'll use biblical reference because that's what people are used to talking about. Satan, the devil, demonic, whatever, they like to find your weakness in your weak point in your armor, and they will feed on that. So when we look at creatures and monsters, right, they will find your deepest fear and they will manifest that on you. And once they find that, they will feed that until it breaks you down. So I think when people are down and weak, they use that to their advantage. That's why when I say people go on spiritual journeys, they get attacked a little more than the average person because I think their faith is tested. If that makes sense for certain people. What's your take, Mark?
I think you're 100% right about that one, because you've even heard stories where people have had like hauntings in their homes and they've encountered shadow creatures or shadow people. And some people have told stories about these shadow entities, like forming becoming the form of like a big spider or whatever their fear is. Some people see them as like a devil-like creature, or they might see a spider, or they might see, something else, whatever their fear is. So that being said, it's not a far stretch for something that is malevolent to try to dig down. And the other thing too, if you notice, a lot of people that had these encounters, if they were younger, usually they were singled out, like they were the only person at home. If they were older, a lot of times you hear about these encounters, it's usually someone elderly, like you said, they're like in their 60s or 70s and things like that. So it's almost like they're picking those that they feel that they can probably influence the easiest. Path of least resistance.
Jacqueline, do you think they're more demonic, alien, or paranormal? That's a good question, Mark.
I'd go demonic on this one. I don't think we're dealing with an alien, or because people that have had encounters with aliens with EVEs, those are more of either like a contact or an abduction type scenario. The aliens never once said, "Can you let me in?" or "You have to let me in."
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
yeah, this is definitely, and paranormal too. They usually paranormal encounters. The spirit's already there. They're in your house. They're in your attic. They're in your basement. They're there. They don't ask anything. It might tell you to get out, but
Yeah.
but you don't have the same scenario. Whereas a BEK, they seem to be very insistent that you let them cross that threshold into your house.
Joe, has anyone actually touched one of these children, like shake their hand or stories like that? Have you noticed anything like that, Mark?
No, but in the case with the elderly couple, they did physically touch them, but it wasn't to examine them. There was during the encounter, either one of the kids either brushed up against them or something like that. It wasn't like they said, "Hey, like, there's no need to." I mean, you just think they're kids. But even in the case where people are terrified of these things, they're probably a little hesitant to go out and try to examine them, or look into their eyes, or But they all seem to have the same physical attributes. The black eyes, the pale skin, very mechanical type movements. The way they speak is almost as if it's something trying to sound like it knows, like it's almost like something's imitating human language. Like I said, when the case where the ones were saying, it's food time, instead of what we might say, it's dinner time, or I'm hungry, it's time to get something to eat. It's very bizarre.
All right.
Nobody talks like that. That's what I'm saying.
Melinda is here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's introduce her and tell us all about yourself.
Hey there, Grizz and Mark. Well,
Hey,
I'm a psychic medium. I'm a psychic detective. I worked on a lot of the cases with Grizz. And I just got off work and I had to drive home, but I'm here and I'm ready to go on this
Well, thank
because
you.
I've experienced them. So it's a long story, though. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, I'm down to
yeah.
hear this one.
Okay, so basically, I was helping a paranormal team. They were at a house and they called upon me to come to help them because they had been some sightings of black-eyed children. So, of course, I jumped on it because it's the first time I've ever had got to deal with it. And sure enough, I got there. I started walking around the house, and then there was a knock at the door. And everybody looked at each other, and I'm just like, I'm going to get it. And so I went over, opened the door, and there they stood. It was a boy and a girl. They did not speak. They just wanted in. And the family was like, I asked them, I said, hey, you have let them in before, haven't you? And they're like, yes. And I'm like, never invite them in. I said, because they are of darkness. They are, because everything I've ever heard about them was really, really bad. So then I found out, I shut the door immediately. And I'm like, no, you're not welcome here. The father, he passed away a month prior to me coming there, and he had been okay, had never had any illnesses. He had a massive heart attack out of the blue. And what was really weird, he had been cleared by a doctor. He had his checkups. He had no heart issues of any kind, no blockages, and he had passed.
What did I say? Heart attack.
Wow. Yep.
So then that was my first time. They, about 30 minutes later, opened up the door. They were gone. Well, then here's how I encountered them. I got home. 2 days later, there's a knock at my door. And my daughter, she was little at the time, and she was running, Mama, get out. And I'm, no, you're not. And because I knew it. I opened up the door, and there they stood. But this time it was two little girls. And I'm like, you're not welcome here. I said, you must go. I shut the door. They knock again. And then I'm like, oh my God. So then I open the door, but I go outside because my daughter was 3 at the time. And I'm like, no. So then I'm sitting there and I'm trying to communicate with them. I felt like they understood me to a certain degree, but they would not respond in any way. They just looked at me. And then I turned because my daughter was picking on the window, and I turned to tell her to stop and go in her bedroom. I turned back around. They were gone.
No.
Yeah. 2 years later, I had moved into a different place and had another experience of them knocking at the door. I opened it, and it was 2 girls and a boy. Then what was the weird part of that one? When I opened the door and I seen them, I heard another knock on my back door, and there was 2 more back there. And I was like, oh my God, they have followed me home. They have just followed me everywhere I'm going. So finally what I did is I done a cleansing and a ritual, because there's a certain ritual I do that is Native American that I specifically got it from my medicine man to help me get rid of black-eyed children. And then I have not seen them since.
No.
So it was scary. It was, especially because I was more fearful for my daughter.
So what was you feeling from them when you were standing in front of them? Were they actually physical beings?
I could see through them, but they were more white, and they were dressed in white. But their eyes were black. And their hair was black, but their eyes were black. And then the rest of them was white, but you could see through them. And what I got from them is they had never been on the earth as far as alive. So they've never been, as a human, I guess I should say. I feel like they are energies that is left upon the earth that is of the negative, like, when you've got your serial killers and all of the horrific things that go on. I feel that there's an energy that has come from that, and it all builds into, and then that's how they come about. That's what I felt. So that's my take on them.
And Jacqueline's asking you, did you feel the deep sense of dread others have explained with the black-eyed children's experiences?
I did, especially for my daughter, because I feel like they prey on the children. And so for example, if my daughter had answered that door, I feel like something would have happened to her. So it was a very big coming of dreadness, fear. But then, the mom thing kicked in, and then I was like, I'm going to kick their because I'm protecting my daughter. So
Yeah.
that's exactly the way I looked at it then.
Amy wants to know, do the Native Americans talk about the black-eyed children, like for centuries?
Some do. We're the ones that I'm in. My family is well. My mom was half Apache, half Lakota, and my dad's Navajo, and so they don't call them black-eyed children. We call them the Yalale, which means black-eyed children, but that's what we call them, and they refuse to call them by that name because you can bring them forth, sort of like shapeshifters. Oh, I already said the other word. Because if you say the other word of a shapeshifter, you can bring that to you.
Mm-hmm.
So you mean I just said that 30 times? I'm gonna have to do a cleansing of prayers tonight. Joe's asking, do you think that you can manifest them yourself? I think we just answered that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think, and some people are more prone to them coming to them because I feel it's according to your vibration, because I keep my vibration really high just because I have to protect myself. And I feel that they are just drawn to the more energetic, more vibrational that you are, the more prone you are for them to come.
Now, someone just mentioned something about manifesting, whether these are manifested energies or beings. And when you mentioned about, negative energies being left behind, I kind of wonder those same things. For example, the same way that they say in episodes like poltergeist activity, where these could be some sort of telekinetic manifestations. Mm-hmm. So I kind of wonder the same thing, because you hear about people having these encounters with things that were creepy pastas. These things were totally fictional, and all of a sudden people are starting to see some of these things, like the rake, for example. Right. And I start to wonder, do you have this sort of collective, I wouldn't say collective consciousness, but if you have enough people talking about the same subject or thinking about the same subject, is it capable of manifesting these things in real life?
I feel that if you are in a certain area, and when I say that, because like when I moved the first time, I moved from one state to another. Mm-hmm. So that's why it was so strange to me that, here they came again. But I do feel that once you have made contact, then they are connected to you from that point on, and they can come back to you as many times as usually they don't, but they can. So I do feel that, there is a great possibility, especially if you're in an area where there's been a lot of deaths, say, plane crash or a hospital that, there's a lot of bad things went on. And that I really feel that you can get them there if you have the right people with the right intentions. I feel that they would come because they would feel your vibration.
That brings up something interesting, something I would want to look into, as far as researching this topic goes. A lot of times when you find out certain physical things can retain energy and play it back almost like a tape recorder, like you hear about water or quartz and things like this, right? And one of the things that I haven't done when it comes to BEKs is looking at the locations where these encounters have taken place, or these purported encounters have taken place, and just kind of looking at these on a big map, plotting them out, and kind of seeing if any of these locations have anything in common.
Yeah.
Anything geographical.
Mm-hmm. I think you will find they will.
Yeah, I think you're right. That might be something to look into, and something that might be a topic of conversation down the road.
Exactly.
Revisit this stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I'm really starting to wonder now about these locations where these encounters have taken place. It would be really insane to find out that there's like some common threads across all of these. Maybe they were within, 1 mile of a babbling brook, for all we know.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You got me thinking now.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we research and start looking into and finding these correlations and figuring out something. Because with that being said, if that is the case, then we could actually go back and see And the other thing too is the people that have had the encounters themselves. Um, is there anything specific about those people? Like, for example, do they have heightened psychic abilities that
Right.
maybe that they're unaware of? Things that might make them a beacon. The same way you got some folks out there who have these or they have psychic abilities that they haven't cultivated yet, and they're wondering why they seem to always run into, there's always ghosts around them.
Right. Exactly.
Because they're trying to reach out and talk. They want to communicate. They know that you can see them and hear them. So I think this is going to be an interesting research topic going forward on this one.
Well, standing stones brings up a good point. What about the car that pulls up and leaves? Is that I've seen that on some cases.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're talking about the Phantom car?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one that vanishes.
I'm working on a case right now on one on the
shut
bat.
the front door. No way.
Yes, it's on the reservation. I've had too many to reach out to me and ask me would I work on it, and it's a certain stretch of highway, and at certain times of the night, usually between the hours of 1 and 3, this Phantom car, if you're on that stretch of highway, it will come up behind you and it stays right on your bumper, and it just won't give. And then when you pull over, it's gone. And so what I've gotten so far, because there was an image sent to me showing an apparition of the car.
Mm-hmm.
And before they sent that to me, I told them, I said, this is dating back way back. And I said, and that is connected to a murder that happened on the reservation. And it is that car, this person is buried in this car. And that's why this is happening, because he's wanting someone to find him and give closure.
Huh.
That's interesting.
So
I've heard the Phantom car, stories from different locations about the car that sort of gets on your tail, and and those are. I mean, if you think about it, those are just equally as creepy. You're out on a dark road all by yourself. Probably you're trying to get home, and we've all been on some of these back roads. One lane north, one lane southbound, and there's nothing else but woods on both sides, and it's pitch dark, and you see some headlights, and those headlights are bearing down on you. And then all of a sudden the headlights turn off and there's nothing there. And then you drive along and the headlights appear down the stretch coming towards you now,
Right.
And, for me, those stories are right up there with the will o' the wisp type stories. And it's funny because I actually had, not to go off topic, I actually had an encounter in Florida where I was traveling on I-75 South. At the time I lived in Northport, Florida, and I was heading home. And I was in Georgia, and I was in my Mustang. I'm cruising right along. It's probably about 2 o'clock in the morning, and a super bright basketball-sized orb appeared in the middle of the road. And as I'm driving toward it, I mean, it was bright, like my ring light bright. It's about the size of a basketball. And I'm on 75 South. I'm speeding a little bit, the Mustang. And maybe I probably could have been maybe about 50 yards from it and just vanished. It was gone. It was pitch black again, except for my headlights.
Wow.
Nothing. So those stories are always I just it's like, well, okay, well, whatever, and kept going. But those stories, so you got the Phantom car, and you got the black-eyed kids that get in this car, or people don't really see them get in the car. Like the car will pull up and they'll leave, but then it's just gone.
Yeah. So what's the deal with this car? Because that's what Standing Stones is wanting to know. How's it related with the BE keys or BE? Look, I can't even say it. Y'all got me nervous.
One of the stories I heard, and this is all hearsay at this point, but one of the stories I did hear was that the car was similar to a Men in Black encounter. You had the kind of black sedan, kind of government looking, no plates, dark windows, and usually somebody got out or somebody was in the area that kind of looked like a BE or a Men in Black type person, and then they were just gone. And it's weird because no one ever really actually saw them get in the car and the car drive away. So it was always the kids left the front door. I went to the window, I looked out, and there was nothing there. And that's just as bad as I guess saw him get in and the car vanished. I mean, either way, it's just as equally as creepy, I'm curious to see how many people are going to be double checking their doors tonight to make sure they're locked.
Well, we're starting to get comments come in. Amy says, I had her sister had a phantom car, was stolen though, come a phantom car to insurance company. What?
Oh my God.
Man, I should have read that first before I put that up there. Y'all cracked me up.
Like
Y'all
the
had me
Blues
going there
Brothers,
for a
yeah.
moment. Yeah.
The Blues
I
Brothers.
mean, when y'all start talking phantom stuff, and BEKs, I mean, God, Lord. So, but
it's a creepy topic. Any way you look at it, I mean,
so,
come on. I mean, look. Anyway, look. If you're out and you're on an investigation and you encounter a spirit, a child spirit, that's creepy enough as it is. For some reason, there's something about child spirits that are just extra creepy for some reason. But then you see something that appears to be physical in nature. It's got all black eyes, and then you close the door and you look through the people and they're gone. I mean, how do you rationalize that to yourself? Maybe I was dreaming. Maybe I was imagining. You're wide awake, man. Sorry, you something.
I always tell people this: how many stories are not told? Right. That's my question.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
How many accounts? So, but I mean, you dealing with that, Melinda? No, I'm good.
Well,
Jacqueline just asked about the ones looking through the car window, and like what happened to what's his name, the one reporter when had the first encounter when he drove off. He said he looked through the car window, cracked the window, saw they had black eyes. He freaks out and drives away. As he's driving away, he looks in the rear view and they're gone. Gone. This is a parking lot. It's an open parking lot. They're just gone.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how long it took for them to tell their story. So,
it's a good question. I mean,
it is.
People tend to be apprehensive.
Somebody just brought it up before I can even say it. I wonder how many incidents besides the other stuff that's illegal happen at rest stops. So, because we know there for a while back in the 70s and 80s, a lot of crime was happening at rest stops.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mugs, murders, carjackings. Denise, that's what we're talking about. There's stories that one couple that's documented, I think the older lady fixed them hot cocoa. Yeah.
And they didn't drink it, did they?
They just sat there staring at them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they stare at you, give you this unnerving stare.
Right.
Then they just get up and leave, and next thing you know, like members of your family are dropping like flies.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
So what do you think about mysterious death around them? How would you take that, Melinda?
The one thing, because when I done that one and she had told me that her husband had passed after that had happened, then I asked to see a picture of him. So then I touched the picture, and the thing that I got is that he was the closest one to them when they were in the house. And I feel that there's something with their energy that does not jive with ours, especially the heart. And she said that he would not allow her to get close to the children, but he did, because he said he wanted to touch them, and he attempted to touch them.
Why would you want to touch children?
Because he said he knew. Well, she told me he said with their eyes.
Sounds like Joe Biden.
Would you stop? Oh boy. Okay, so the way she explained it to me is that he kept saying he didn't feel that the kids were of good, and so he wanted to touch them to see if they were real. So I feel it's the proximity. Oh my God. Here he goes. But I feel it's the proximity.
Yeah, I really agree with you.
Are you okay, Mark?
That was hilarious. Okay. I would agree that it seems to be something with the energy, because the same people that have had these encounters. I mean, how else would you explain it?
Right.
What the hell? Crystal said she'll make a damn salad. What the hell that come from?
I don't know. I don't think they'd be interested in salad. If they didn't want the cocoa, you're probably going to want something healthy.
Oh, yeah. You want a salad? What the hell? Did I miss something? You want $1,000 of blue cheese?
Wait a minute. Catherine said, I'm not opening my door to any children now, ever.
I can't see. I can't see nothing. Bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. Where's my damn hanky? I can't find it.
Oh my God.
Oh my Lord. Crystal, I don't know if she hit like, but she wants to make us a salad. I love you, Crystal. I don't know where the hell that came from. I'm sorry. I don't want to sniff the kids. I can't believe who said that.
Oh, gosh.
I said Joe Biden. I thought that was hilarious as hell.
Oh my gosh.
Oh Lord.
Oh man.
Well, we got flagged. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, we probably did.
Good job.
Right.
Good job, Grizzly.
Lord.
Yeah, it's crazy because you have heard stories about darker entities. I'm not speaking about BEKs in general, but just darker entities that sort of they feed off of the energy of the living,
Right.
And so yeah, if we're talking about something that's truly malevolent, which I think it is, then yeah,
Right.
what they would. And the question at that point is it intentional? Is it just the fact that you're in proximity with these things that this happens, or did they want to get in on purpose to do exactly what they came to do, which was to either infect you in some way or to ruin your health?
See, that's the question. I always ask this, why is it like you said earlier? Why do they pick certain people? Is it like the demonic trying to find your weakness? Because I always hear about spiritual people, right? And how the demonic or evil tries to attack them. But you also look with, like you said, or Melinda said, or somebody said about people with abilities. So, and being sensitive. So that would make sense, right? Because we see that in paranormal realm and in reality. So, yes.
There's people out there that are empathic or have some type of psychic abilities and don't even realize it.
Right.
Or they just plain, they're just in denial about it. But that might make them a beacon toward these type of entities for whatever reason. Maybe they want to feed off their energy, or maybe they're just attracted to them in some way. But I would venture to say that that they probably infect these people intentionally. I mean, what other reason would they want to come in? What other reason would they insist on coming in?
Right.
They're really insistent when you don't know.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, Ashley, you are so welcome, hon. My takeaway from the show. I don't know if I can say what this
We're going back to that again.
I was doing good. Next time your doorbell rings. And that girl's there with the Girl Scout cookies.
Listen to you.
Looking for their eyes.
Yeah, just make sure they don't have black eyes before you buy those Thin Mints.
I can't even say it.
Standing there with a box of Thin Mints and having a coronary at the same time.
It asked for a salad. Have some blue cheese.
Off of a salad.
Oh my gosh.
Well, we know it ain't swamp gas. But anyways, ladies, y'all kill me on that one. Well, they're loving it. They're all laughing. But anyway, I don't know where the hell that came from.
Look, after this topic, we could use something to lighten it up a bit, because this is one of those things that when in the past when I've had these discussions with people and they were unaware of what the unaware of the stories, then usually they hit me up like the next day and they're like, I was making sure my doors were locked.
Right.
You know what I asked them when they tell me that? Do you live in the hood or something? So it's like,
show his doors locked anyway.
I know, right? Yeah. So, and trying to hit I couldn't even see the damn keyboard there for a minute. Y'all was making me laugh. Poor Crystal. I love you to death, Crystal. I didn't mean to make you to run off. Hopefully you're still here. I mean, where did that come from? Making my salad. I love her to death. She's great. But I mean, that was a good subject because, I mean, a lot of people don't talk about it. Just
Right.
like people in church don't talk about evil.
Right.
So, but yeah, I hate to see that badge too on a Girl Scout shirt.
Their sales are going to go down like 10% now.
Oh my gosh, Denise.
Be wearing Halloween, just dress up like Joe Biden. The kids will stay away. Anyways, I'm gonna get phone calls on that one, ladies and gentlemen. I can't even see the screen. My belly hurts from laughing. Ashley said, "Hey, Ashley, I don't discriminate. I'll take both sides." So,
Oh, boy.
anyways,
oh my gosh.
I think Crystal's left the building. I'll message her, make sure she's okay. I feel bad now. I love you, Crystal. Crystal, make them salad and peanut butter. Anyways, we'll leave on with Crystal. But no, it's I don't know, but yeah, and we'll leave Joe out of it too. So, Agent Smith, welcome. Yeah, I'm going to get that clip with Mark's face. Mark didn't know how to take that one at first.
Oh my gosh.
Because that was like the mic drop. If I had a mic, I would have dropped it right there.
Like should I laugh at this?
You had to. You try to
hilarious.
keep it in. Oh, Agent Smith said he had an incident too. I told
Really?
you people start coming forward. Yeah, that's crazy.
Mhm.
So, Agent, make sure you message me. I'd like to know about your story too, because I wouldn't mind talking about it on the next episode, just a recap of it if possible.
Yeah.
But once again, just like I said on the last show, ladies and gentlemen, one person talks about it. Oh, my phone's blowing up. I hate to look at it. But once you talk about something, it gives the door for other people to come forward, because a lot of people won't talk about something because they feel in a corner. So, but that's wild. Melinda, where from? What states for the BEKs?
It happened here in Arizona, and it happened in Tennessee.
Tennessee? Oof. And what year was that?
Oh, my daughter was born in 98. She was 3 the first time. So that was in 2001. And
same time frame as the others.
And then the second time was 2 years later. So around 2003.
So that's interesting, because if you look at the most, I don't know about now, I haven't looked at it in years, but the documented cases were in that time frame. That's interesting. I wonder if that correlates with something.
It could, I guess.
Well, Arizona alone just is interesting because Arizona just happens to be a hotspot for so many different types of things that could be considered interdimensional, whether they were portals that UFOs might go through, or UAPs might use, or if there's paranormal entities, things like that. But a lot of people seem to feel it has to do with just the geography alone of, or I should say geography, the geology of Arizona, that region. So, but like I said, I think I'm going to go back. I'm going to start putting some data together on the encounters, and I'd be really interested to see what it reveals.
And Pamela's asking too, if while you do that, what about ley lines? That'd be something interesting to throw in that category as well.
Yeah, to be honest with you, that's specifically what I'm looking for. Things like that, areas that would be considered areas of, areas that would be considered high concentrations of energy. These ley lines, because if you find out that these encounters seem to be happening along, near, or close to these ley lines, and that would be some pretty interesting results, you know.
Jacqueline, the reason why I brought that up is that when I was studying BEKs, it's been years. I haven't really looked at the phenomenon in quite some time. There was quite a documented cases from that time frame Melinda is referring to, and that just, when Mark was talking about gathering data, it just made me think about that. I'm not saying that the phenomenon does not exist today. Because here's the deal. Who do you report that to now? Who is reporting that phenomenon, right? Who's documenting? I don't think anybody is.
Yeah, and what Jacqueline mentioned about the early 2000s. I mean, the story, the first story that came out was Brian Methel's, and that was in 1996 is when his encounter was.
Right.
So that predates the early 2000s right there. But obviously, he was not the first one, because when he came out with his story, when it was on Monsters, and was it Monsters and Myths or whatever, that was when more people came forward, and that's what happens. Just like Grizzly said, when one person comes forward, others start coming forward. They're like, oh my God, that happened to me as well.
Right.
Well, Melinda, I thank you so much for rushing home and jumping on. That's wild to have firsthand encounters and stuff. And Agent Smith, if you could reach out to Mark and myself, we love to hear about your encounter. And also, anybody that has any stuff, Mark's working on some stuff where you can reach hold of us, but reach out to us. You got Mark's information, my information. We love to hear from you. And when Mark gets our stuff together, Mark, can you explain what we're going to have where people can get a hold of us?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, on the by the next episode, you'll be able to go to the parafactor.com, and it's not up yet, but it'll be up by the next episode, and there's going to be a way for you to tell us your story. So you'll be able to actually leave a voicemail on the website to tell us your story, and there will also be a form for you to fill out, and you'll be able to upload information, and that'll be a great way for you guys to reach out and tell us what your firsthand encounters are.
Yeah, and another thing too, ladies and gentlemen, we are always up for guests on the show for whatever topics. Just let us know ahead of time so we can prep everything and promote and advertise. I feel most of the encounter stories I read online are older stories. Well, that's the thing, Jacqueline. Nobody's documenting these things. If you remember MUFON, before it was MUFON, I forgot what it was called. They used to have a hotline and a website.
Yeah.
You look at BFRO, right, in the Bigfoot industry. You be able to call them or submit reports to. They don't actually update that anymore like they used to, like they did in the late 90s, early 2000s. So who's keeping up with that? Nothing's really being documented. So, but with Mark, with the website and stuff, we like to hear from you and promote stuff and get you on the show and talk about it. But yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I think I think even if we have like a Discord server or something like that set up as as well, or even if it was like a Facebook group where people can kind of come in and share their stories with each other, that would be helpful as well.
Yeah, Karen says interesting show again. Awesome info, Mark.
Thank you.
So, you want to check my messages? Just remember, everybody, I love you all. I didn't mean no harm. So, but it was a nice topic. And thanks again, Melinda. It was wonderful.
Sure.
Yeah,
anytime.
Great.
And from coast to coast, everybody, Godspeed. And we'll catch you on the next show. Everybody have a good night. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.